Hello, Commissioner. Here we are once again for another weekly video. How are you?
All right, Ken, we're into September.
And what a week we had for the first week in September. We had our first ever virtual town hall, followed by three listening tours, one at Solnit North, the Torrington office, and on Friday we wrapped up with certain sections of folks in central office. So quite a week being with people and seeing people in a virtual environment.
So, it's a double-edged sword a bit because as this pandemic progresses, we are getting tired. People are missing each other. We miss the workplace camaraderie.
Yep.
And I think that is sometimes manifesting in people getting a little bit relaxed. The Department of Public Health cautioned this week that there are some upticks in COVID positives across the state based on people getting really comfortable in their personal lives. And we chose this week to do the all staff virtual meeting as a means to just get together. Even if we couldn't all physically see each other, the opportunity to just connect with people and change the scenery a little bit was really refreshing. It was exciting to be able to have that. We had over 1,900 staff
Over
that
1,900.
participated. That's more than half. And we've gotten lots of positive feedback from that. And then, of course, the three tours that we did right after to be able to have some more intimate conversations with the smaller groups of staff. Those will continue for the rest of the month, but we just have to stay connected and stay vigilant.
Yeah. Who would have thought 6 months ago we would have had the technology we do now to get almost 2,000 people together with a click of a button that literally went, seamlessly. But
I
as you mentioned,
know. Yeah. Shout out to Claude in IT, who really was our executive producer to make sure everything went smoothly. We had a little practice run with the execs here. Diane, Joanna, and Letha helped us work out some of the kinks, and it really went very well orchestrated.
it did. And on that call and the subsequent ones, you really stressed vigilance, right? We've got all of our youth now subject to the visitation triage.
Mm-hmm.
Um, some of our youth are actually visiting with their parents in our DCF offices. We know that in certain parts around Connecticut, some of the numbers are increasing a little bit. So it's really important, especially in our personal lives, social distance, wearing masks, washing our hands, and that issue of wearing masks, I think you wanted to talk a little bit about today, because there have been a couple of occasions where we have not been as forthright with wearing masks in DCF offices as we have been in the past. So it's a really good reminder today.
So, the issue of mask wearing is something that has become not only an issue of personal responsibility, but of workplace expectations. Our workplace extends to the community. And when you are conducting the work of the agency, when you're having face-to-face conversations with our stakeholders, whether there are families, whether there are coworkers, whether there are providers, whether we're in court, whatever it is, if you are conducting the work of the agency in a face-to-face format with another person, you should be wearing a mask. We submitted and sent out the videos that were put together by the
Yep.
Health and Wellness Division and the Academy for Workforce Development to remind everybody the proper way of using personal protective equipment. But it's not a choice at this point. If people have concerns about being able to do that, you should contact Human Resources to have an
Yep.
accommodation consideration. But when you're conducting the work of the office, you need to have a mask on if you're going to interact with another person face to face. It's just, pretty difficult to maintain the social distancing. So, the workplace expectation is to ensure that everybody is safe, and we need to make sure that that happens.
Excellent. Excellent. And speaking of offices, we've had a number of questions from staff recently about this 9/15/20 date, the September 15th date. Some staff believe that um, all of us are going to physically return to our workspace. Can you clarify a little bit? What is that 9/15 date? What does it mean? What does it not mean? Just so we can all be on the same page here.
So one of the questions that came through the chat in the virtual all staff meeting had to do with why do we feel that children can go safely back to school if we can't safely return to the offices? And I wanted to address that in the context of how I'm going to respond to the prompt that you just gave me. And that is, we are following the science, and the science is telling us that the number of people in a building makes a difference as it relates to transmission. So when you think about children returning to school, there is a limited number of children who will be returning to school buildings. The 9/15 date was a date that we gave as our next target date for the next stage of DCF and thinking about how we resume more of our functions. It is not a date of people physically returning to the buildings. We are still very cautious as it relates to that. And honestly, because of the way our buildings are configured, I don't foresee a date anytime soon that all of us can be physically back in the office at the same time. Now, what we do see is an increase in the amount of tasks that are expected of folks, having to leave their home, the increase in in-person visitation, the increase in ensuring kids and their parents or siblings are connected to each other in person through all the triage processes. But, until engineering has been working so hard preparing all of our physical locations for a limited number of staff to be there. But at this time, we don't have any specific time for everyone to be back in our buildings because it's just not safe to do that yet. Likewise, we said last week on our call about foster parents using the reasonable prudent parent standard to make decisions related to kids. And we're getting some great feedback that there's some good plans coming in about how children will be educated. So I just think that, our processes that we have put in place are being very thoughtfully executed by the staff who are, really being partners with our foster parent community and with the kids and families that we serve.
Great. So again, language and messaging is huge, right?
Right.
What we're doing regarding children and families that we serve and from where we do
From where, yeah.
are two separate issues. I think that there has been some confusion that as we resume full operations, that means we're going to be physically in an office, and it's not. We're getting closer to full activities of the department, but where that is going to be conducted is not going to be physically in an office for the foreseeable future.
Right. The other thing to remind people of, along with mask wearing, is that, when you're coming in to use a car to conduct the business of the agency, remember we offer guidance around that, wiping down the common touch points, all of that, those cleaning supplies are available, making sure you wipe down the steering wheel, wipe down the door handles, gear shifts, things that are common touch points when you get into the car. And then when you leave, as a courtesy to your coworkers, I know, listen, this is one of those, I know a lot and I know a lot. State cars are not the cleanest, right? Because we sometimes don't clean up after ourselves. Now is not the time for us to leave our Dunkin' Donuts cup in the cup holder or whatever other stuff. Yep. Right. Clean up after yourselves, wipe down things, because that's the way we're going to try to maintain some level of cleanliness. This is just, really caused us to think about how we can pay attention to our workspaces, but also make sure that we're not doing anything to jeopardize the health or safety of our colleagues.
Yep. And as we are home or in remote locations conducting our work, we must also remain vigilant about confidentiality.
Mm-hmm.
Due to the great technology that we have, and we are very blessed to have what we have, we must always remember to keep our records confidential, but also our conversations confidential about the children and families that we serve, which, depending on the makeup of your household, where you are, children running around, people coming in and out, may not necessarily be an easy task for all of us. What are your thoughts on that point?
This is another area that I think we're getting a little bit relaxed on, and I have to remind folks that the information contained in our records is confidential. A family's private information is not something that can be shared broadly outside of the scope of the work of the department. And so when we're working away from the office, it's imperative that we're doing so in a way that protects the confidentiality and privacy of important information in case files. So that may mean, where you are conducting the telework, if somebody can read your screen, if someone can overhear you as you're talking. We probably should not be doing this work in a very crowded, food food court or someplace where people can hear. The telework is a luxury for us, but it's not a license to relax our confidentiality standards. Our, families and children require us to maintain a level of privacy for their information. It's important that we conduct ourselves in the same way we would if we were in a workspace out in the office when we are in a remote location.
So again, today's message is, again, a simple reminder: know your surroundings, know who could potentially see or hear the information that's being imparted by you to others, and be careful with that.
Right, right.
Be careful with that. So, so prior to us getting to our statistics, we have one more topic, which is also Chronos, and I'm almost laughing as I bring this up, because probably 2 or 3 times a week, you and I are saying, okay, did you punch in? Did you punch out? Chronos has really reshaped in a lot of ways the manner in which we obviously record our work, and it's a daily reminder to punch in, punch out. There's exceptions to the workday. We are still in the practice mode of Chronos. There's still
the soft launch.
The
yep.
soft launch. We know we have the dcf.chronos@ct.gov email box for questions or thoughts or concerns. But we also want to be clear with staff to be rest assured, still soft launch, but we need to be actively working Chronos every day to learn the system and get out those little kinks that may be barriers to our successful.
So shout out to the Chronos team who have been working around the clock with DAS to stand up Chronos in the DCF environment and really try to work out what concerns that we have, particularly in the scheduler piece, in the 24-hour, 24/7 operations. That's the main piece that they're focusing their attention on right now. And then, of course, the timekeeping element that all of us have been practicing with. And just a reminder, in terms of that work-life balance and, supervisors kind of knowing how much work and how much time our staff are spending doing work. The Chronos gives us an opportunity to, really account for the time that we're spending doing the work and making sure that we give ourselves time to breathe. Because I think one of the things that contributes to the COVID fatigue we've been talking about is this notion of not giving ourselves enough downtime. So as we head into the 3-day weekend, give yourself some downtime and punch out, for crying out loud.
Punch out, put the phone away, turn the computer off. Absolutely.
That's right.
Okay, so at this point in our weekly message, for those staff who do not want to hear the update on the COVID positive diagnoses, feel free to shut off your screen, and Commissioner, you'll give us the latest update.
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier in the call, Connecticut has started to see a bit of an uptick. We still are one of the states that has one of the lower transmission rates in the country, and we'd like to keep it that way. That's why we are approaching, coming back physically into our offices all at once with such a level of cautiousness. We have 80 caregivers now, Ken, who have tested positive. We've crossed into, 80 foster parents, and this is, pretty concerning. 28 youth are positive, and 38 staff members have tested positive. And so as we think about the numbers that impact DCF, we have to think about the numbers that impact the broader Connecticut community. As more kids are going to school and interacting with other people, there's always the potential for more transmission. So, we've talked about vigilance being our word of the week. Vigilance is definitely the key here to try to keep the transmission rate down.
All right. So your reminder to staff: punch out, get some rest, take some time. Here's a reminder right back to you: punch out, get some rest, take your time, take some time for yourself and your family. And we look forward to beginning another great week after a restful weekend.
4-day week next week, you guys. We got it. We got this. All right. Take care, Ken.
You got it. Take care.
Bye.